Hey y'all, it is mid-June here in Zone 7B, and I just wanted to give you all a quick update on our raised Hugelkultur beds for our garden this year and let you know how they're doing so far. We have two beds that we completed. They were built by my husband. You can see that in a previous video that I'll link below if you'd like to look at that. But so far we have been pretty impressed with the raised beds that we built. We were, as I said in the previous video, hoping to make these self-watering, but didn't get around to that. But if you recall, the bottom half, at least, of the bed is filled with first layer was cardboard. Then we put some large tree stumps, logs, not stumps, but logs from trees. And then we put leaf mulch on top of it. Then we put in manure and then some potting soil or gardening soil. And then we were going to layer it and did layer it a little bit with some mulch on the very top. So we've got the two beds side by side, and in between them we have the cattle panel that we put for things to grow up on. And I want to show you the first bed here. We've got some tomatoes that are doing really well. Again, this is mid-June, so we have picked a couple of tomatoes, but that's all we've picked so far. We've got some pumpkins that are going here I put on the end, and hopefully we're going to be able to just get those to train over the side. The strawberries that you see here, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. These are ever-bearing strawberries, and they had strawberries on them in the beginning, and we picked a couple, and then one minute they look like they're going to die and I'm ready to rip them out, and then now they look like they've got some nice leaves growing out on them, but there's no blooms. So this is my first attempt at growing strawberries, so I know I'm doing something wrong. I just really don't know what that is. So if you've got any tips, let me know. These tomatoes we're going to stake today. Here we have these are loofah sponges, and we started these seed a few months ago because loofahs, from what I've read, actually have a long growing season, and if you start them straight in the ground, you may not have enough time before the first frost for them to actually produce and harden off the loofahs, because I'm wanting to get the sponges out of them. I'm not going to be eating these. So you can see that they are growing pretty rapidly up the trellis here, or the cattle panel. So I'm hoping no blooms yet on those, but they like it super hot, and luckily last night we got a nice rain and it's semi-cool this morning. So I'll walk on down. I will tell you to, I've already gotten a snake out of the bottom that was crawling up underneath the raised bed. So always make sure that you're watching for snakes and critters when you're walking around your raised beds, because that was kind of startling for sure. Again, we're going to stake this tomato here in the corner. We've got another pumpkin and another tomato in the back. So basically it's the loofahs, the strawberries, pumpkins, and the strawberries in this bed. So let's walk over to the second bed here. Again, looking for snakes. And we've got some, we just tossed in some pumpkin seeds here as well. They seem to be doing great, and we've got a pretty sweet pepper here that has some peppers on it. I have not raised these before, but these don't seem as long as what the picture looks, so I'm going to leave them on a little longer. But they're supposed to be a sweet pepper, and you can see we've got more blooms. Walking on around, we have some griller squash that have been loaded with blooms, but no squash so far. I checked with someone at church yesterday and they said they haven't had any squash yet either, just lots of blooms. So I'm going to give it a little longer. Hopefully I don't have to self-pollinate these, but who knows, I may have to do that. We also have an eggplant plant here. Looks like maybe we've got an eggplant starting there, hopefully. And let's see what else is in here. More tomatoes. These are was a cucumber that I had started from seed that's just really struggling. We've got another cucumber here that is growing up the trellis, and it is doing fantastic. I actually need to loop that into the trellis this morning. But the biggest performer thus far in our raised bed is this cherry tomato plant, and it is producing. I had no idea these cherry tomatoes would grow like this, but it is the tallest thing on the trellis so far, and it is loaded with blooms, and I can attest that the tomatoes are divine. My husband and I had a couple of them yesterday, and that had turned already, so that's where we're at so far. Now let's get these tomatoes tied up. So what I've got is just some wooden skewers that I'm going to be using. We have some tomato cages that we've used on a couple of the other plants, but we didn't have any more. And these are getting pretty tall. So it's just a wooden skewer, and I'm going to take and I'm going to just kind of stick it down beside the plant. And not too far into the ground, but far enough that it'll stay stood up. And then I'm going to be using this floral tape, and it's very flexible. It won't kill the plant. I don't want to put it on there too tightly though, but it's kind of got a sticky back. And again, it's called floral tape, and you can find it at most stores like Walmart, probably in the silk flower department. Maybe, no, I don't think it'll be in the greenhouse or the garden section, but probably over where you buy like silk plants or stuff to make wreaths out of, and it's called floral tape. And I'm just going to tie that around there and kind of stake that one. I'm going to do this second one as well, and what I'll do is just kind of keep an eye on this. If the plant gets too large, then or large, and this gets tight, then obviously I'll just come out and cut this off and put another piece on. It's definitely not something permanent. It can easily go off, but it's very loose, and we'll let the plant grow without any problem. I'm going to do the same thing with this one here. I think this is probably about a 2 foot long stake. So, you know, we may have to get a larger or a taller stake at some point, but this is going to give them some structure here in the beginning to kind of grow on. I don't think these will be more like the cherry tomatoes. They're not probably going to grow along the trellis, but if they do, that's okay too. And you can see that I'm not putting it right up against the stake. I'm just kind of doing it maybe a couple of inches away from it. It doesn't really matter. I just don't want to drive the stake in the ground and disturb the roots, so that's why I'm kind of doing it a couple of inches away from it, and just gonna let the tape do its job and hold that there together. And yeah, that's what we're doing on these that we didn't have cages for. Just want to show you this floral tape that I'm talking about up close. You can see that it's very thin, and like I said, it's not really, I hate to call it sticky on one side, but it kind of is, but obviously it's not enough to hold anything up, but it kind of has a little bit of a stickiness to it, but it's very easy to tear and to use, and it stretches, so it makes it a lot better than using like a piece of wire or something to tie the tomatoes to. I can remember my grandmother using old pantyhose. She called them stockings to tie up plants in her garden because they would give and they wouldn't damage the plants. So you can see here we've got them tied up now. We've got the stake in and just wrapped a piece of this floral wire around them. And again, we're doing it on the ones that we don't have cages on. So we have had 4 that we actually staked up today. But so far we're very pleased with the raised beds and the process. You can see from the side, let me go over to the other one, I think it shows a little better, that when we started they were to the very top, actually up to the rim here with soil, so you can see it has settled, and that's okay. We knew that was going to happen as things decayed and they got wet, and as we use these each year, we'll just top them back off with more soil, so that's not a problem. But so far so good with the raised beds, and you know, we're pleased. And again, if you have any tips on the strawberries, let me swing back around. Sorry for the jerking of the video. These are, I've got my tag here, they're Ozark Beauty is what they're called on the strawberries. So if you have any tips on these strawberries and maybe what I'm doing wrong, hit the comment button and let me know. Thanks, and you all have a blessed day.